Hello, everyone. Pleasure to have you all here to host you once more time for our new webinar. This time we got one of our best trainers and somebody who has seen all and been through it, the certifications that we're going to talk today. Dirk Denise, pleasure to have you on the webinar, Dirk. Thank you again to everyone joining us today. We're going to try to have a brief and concise presentation today to get to the point, and you will have the opportunity to ask questions. Feel free to put down in the chat any questions you may have, and at the end of the session, we'll try to address as many as we can. So without further ado, we're going to talk today about the process of becoming an ISO 27001 lead implementer and lead auditor. This is our flagship certification scheme. And for the agenda today, if you could please move to the next slide. So for the agenda today, we're going to briefly talk about TRECCERT and what we do. Then Dirk is going to take over and he's going to guide us through the standard, the tasks of a lead implementer, the tasks of a lead auditor, and at the end, I'm going to take over again. I'm going to show you the different ways to prepare for such certifications and the certification requirements of TRECCERT to become a lead implementer and lead auditor. So moving on to, we're going to talk a little bit about TRECCERT. Next slide, please. So TRECCERT is a certification body for persons. It's headquartered in Hanover, Germany, but we are present all over the world, mainly through our partners and resellers. Also, we provide our services online through our web shop. People are able to get certified through us through a relatively straightforward process that enables candidates from all over the world to get their certifications. Our mission is to enhance the careers prospects of our community members, which we dearly value. We do this by guiding them toward our recognized certification trainings, which enables them to demonstrate their professional competence. We try to be as committed as we can to our customers, and we try to offer the best service that we can. We believe in quality of our services, and that's why we always go for the highest credentials when we get our accreditation, which is the ISO 17024 standard with ANAB, which is basically the gold standard when it comes to certification body accreditations. We believe in creating a professional environment that nurtures the desire for certification. This is an ongoing process, and we're constantly building platforms to enable our members to collaborate with each other, discover new opportunities to get certified, and to educate themselves with new trends such as AI and new regulations such as DORA, NIS2, and so on. And of course, we believe in continual improvement, which is also a standard of, it's part of basically all ISO standards, which through the feedback that we receive from our candidates and events like this, we try to implement these hints and improve our services to the extent that we can. Moving on. Initially, we started with main focus on ICT. We had only courses based around ISO 27001 and standards, related standards like ISO 22301 and business continuity. But from then, we have expanded to include other fields, including compliance, environment, AI, anti-bribery, risk management, data protection, and we are constantly working to add new schemes to our certification portfolio to enable people to have more options when it comes to their certification paths. Moving on, for each of the schemes, particularly for the management system standards, we have created different levels of certification. We have the practitioner level, which is an entry-level certification and training, which enables people that do not have an experience or a lot of knowledge on these standards to gain a comprehensive overview of the standard and what it requires. It's a great entry module for everyone, and we also recommend this to people who intend to become lead implementers and lead auditors, but they need a kickstart, which is an easy exam, so to say, much smaller exam, much shorter course that enables them to build the confidence to take on the challenge of the lead implementer and the lead auditor, which are professional level schemes built according to ISO 17024 requirements. These are the two standards that the two certification schemes that we have accredited with the American National Accreditation Board. They are more complex, of course. They require a little bit more. The exam is longer and everything, but we will cover all these topics. And at the end of this presentation, we will go through the details of the years of experience, the process for getting certified and all that. But without taking more talking points from Dirk, I would like to pass the stage, so to say, to him, as he can guide us through the tasks and responsibilities of lead implementers and lead auditors. Without further ado, Dirk, please take over.
Thank you, Liam. Always a pleasure working together with you and with TRECCERT. Well, we've been working a long time together, and it's always a very professional, very pleasant experience working with you guys together. So thank you. So, okay, what is ISO 27001? Well, basically, it's an ISO standard. It helps you to a lot about security management, but most important is becoming a cornerstone and the reference, so to speak, about your security management. It's becoming a cornerstone for a lot of legal regulations. So if you have to implement NIS2, or you're implementing DORA, or you're implementing PCI DSS, or perhaps you're implementing the anti-fraud standard for the World Lottery Association, they all use ISO 27001, and more regulations, more and more legal standards are hooking up to this ISO 27001. So it's a pretty important standard nowadays. Also, a lot of companies just go like, if you've got the ISO 27001 stamp, okay, it's a bit of like in card games, it's jogger card, get out of jail. Immediately you got your 80% score, and all the rest are just details, so to speak, that we need to handle off. But let's go to the point. ISO 27001 is an industry standard that helps you to manage your security and to implement a system to manage your information security. And like that, you're going to safeguard yourself. You're going to prevent as much as possible security breaches. You're not going to stop every potential attack, of course. There's no such thing as 100% absolute security. It's like driving a car. You can be very careful, but if there's an earthquake or a tree breaks, an accident can always happen. But there's a difference between an accident happening and a disaster happening. If you crash with your car, you have a small accident, you're well insured, well prepared, you were driving carefully, etc., etc. Well, then it's just an incident. Okay, you lose a few hours because I have to come pick up your car, you get a replacement car, but the same day you're driving a replacement car. If you don't have all that in place, you don't have a correct insurance, you weren't properly prepared, etc., well, it's going to be a disaster, and it will be a misery for hours and days on, perhaps even weeks. And exactly this same logic applies with ISO 27001. It helps you to avoid a lot of issues, and if something happens, it's just an incident. It isn't a disaster. So how does it do that? Well, it does that by implementing a management system, so an entire system with processes and procedures, and also technology and people, to manage your security in a predictable way. So, and if it becomes predictable, you can improve it, and you can look at weak points and also make them stronger. So with ISO 27001, we've got a standard that defines everything we need for both physical, technological, people controls, processes. All that is being taken care of. It's been tested in more than 160 countries. 160 countries have tested it, have looked at it, have given their thoughts, keep updating, keep reviewing it. So we got a pretty good international reference with all the common sense worldwide. And common sense, as I always put it when I teach about this or explain to customers, common sense is the bad experience that you had in the past, and say, let's not do it like that again. Let's do it in a way that we can avoid this kind of bad experience. Or common sense can always also be someone else who had a bad experience says, no, don't go down that road. Take the road left, much better. So that's what basically ISO 27001 is about. It helps you to create, implement, and promote an information security management system. And it is generic. You can use it in, I've implemented it in organizations with plus 30,000 employees and also in organizations with plus 5 employees. So it can go from very large to very small organizations. They can be public services, they can be critical infrastructures, they can be private sector, finance sector, all those sectors can implement it. So that's it's a very useful and recommended standard. Next slide, please. Yeah, here we got it. So ISO 27001, it's not just one document, it's not one big Bible, so to speak, or one big Wikipedia with a lot of items in it. It's a family of documents, of which 27001 is version 2022 is the most important one, because it specifies all the requirements to implement information security, cyber security, and privacy protection through a management system. So it's going to tell you what are all the requirements for implementing such a system as such. How do you maintain it? How do you keep it alive? How do you feed it? How do you integrate with an organization? And then next to that, you're also going to see a number of controls, what you actually need on the terrain. So technical controls, physical controls, people controls. Well, people controls like an NDA, non-disclosure agreement. We call that a control in ISO 27001. A control is a measure that you take to avoid a bad situation, something that you want to avoid, or something that you want to keep in check, in control, so to speak. Now, of course, as I've mentioned before, if you implement all this, it still doesn't stop Murphy or an accident from happening. Bad things can always happen, but it will help you handle it and make it less dramatic. So it does help you quite a bit forward also towards authorities, because when you can demonstrate this, well, it's like showing up a very good school report, so to speak, or very good pen test report. Next slide, please. Okay. I've been teasing a bit about this. I said we had the management system itself and the controls. The controls, as you can see here, I use the terms people, process, technology. Well, they rearranged it a bit to make it more speaking towards management staff, also to upper management. So we have the physical controls. If the bad guys can't get in, there's a lot they can't do. If they can get in, they can destroy a lot, they can sabotage a lot. So we have to think about physical controls. Also, physical controls now with all the hurricanes and cyclones we're hearing in the world, because it's again tornado storm season, so to speak. Well, you have to protect yourself against that. We've got a number of controls. We've got also technical controls. We've got 34 of them. And these are about network development, architecture, your security design, operational, all those items. And then, of course, we've got the most difficult part of all, because we managing your organization, getting your organization, the processes aligned, that every process meet certain requirements and also tick certain boxes, so we are on the good road, so to speak, that we're on the good way. And then people controls. People controls are basically the joiner, mover, leaver. Someone joins the company. Okay, when someone joins the company, it makes sense that this person signs a contract, and in this contract we say, okay, you get something from us, a salary, some benefits like a car, mobile phone, things like that, or even training, or that's a commercial agreement, that's a contractual agreement. But in exchange for that, we're going to get from you your expertise and your time within certain limits. But also then, when you work for us, we're going to give you a lot of our intellectual property. You will get access to our deepest secrets, our deepest company secrets, perhaps. We would expect you to respect that and not do things that could harm the organization or could harm other people. So we're going to put in there a non-disclosure agreement, so you don't divulge any information from the organization without permission. We're going to ask you to comply with our security measures. Bluntly put, don't hack the organization and put everything on the internet, so to speak. Warn us if you find something so we can fix it. So those are the people controls when people enter the company, or when they change function. Oh, you're now moving from, let's say, a normal employee function to the finance department. Well, when you move to finance department, well, we need to adjust your access rights. You need to get access to certain files you hadn't have access before. And then, of course, when people leave, hopefully when they either win the lottery or they retire, in that condition, then they have to bring back their materials. They have to be reminded, say, okay, we know that you know, but just to make sure you can't forget, we still have this confidentiality agreement that you have to respect for the next 5 years or so. And in exchange, you will have this compensation. So it's the people controls. It sounds very hard, but it's just like helping people to help you and helping people to do a good job, actually, regarding security. Organizational controls, you can also look at it that way. It's more technical. It's saying like we must have change management, we must have asset management. And further on, we will see why we need that, but we needed to have a proper security in place. So that's for the controls. That's on the work floor, so to speak, very operational day to day. That's something that we can see, we can almost touch, it makes sense. But then we've got also a system. And a system means that in a predictable way, year after year, we keep getting results that improve and that keep us on course. So first of all, we're going to define the context of our organization. Are we a public service? Are we a private service? Do we do finance? Or are we more in, let's say, critical infrastructure? It's important to know this because depending on the context of our organization, certain items will be more important. In a critical infrastructure, it's much more important that people keep getting their clean water, keep getting their electricity, than, for example, that the desktop of the CEO is down for a day. If the CEO can't work for a day, oh, that's very sorrowful, that's a pity, but the people keep getting their electricity. That's important, that's more important. But then if you're, let's say, the CEO of a big financial institution, well, then your workstation, your portable has to work right before you go into this big financial meeting with the bank, for example. So the context gives you a guidance how you should address certain items, which priorities to put, and also which risks are present. In a bank or in a financial institution, you're not going to think about producing electricity for the people. You just get it from a reliable source. But when you're in a critical infrastructure and you have to generate this, well, you're going to think about it. You're going to think about the entire logistic chain behind that, all the physical issues, the geopolitical issues. So as we've seen lately in Portugal and Spain, suddenly there's something wrong with the international power supply system. Well, you would have to take that into account. That could have an impact on your ISO 27001. So you will think about all that. Then, of course, you need leadership. Someone needs to say, okay, I'm going to sign off on this. I'm going to put my mouth where my money is, or my money in my mouth, both are the same. And we're going to say, okay, now we're going to do this. I'm going to look for people who can help me implement this, help make this big shift, move on. And if needed, I'll put my shoulders under it also, or I'll be of assistance, or I'll take my responsibility. It's extremely important to have leadership. If you don't have a leader, well, you've got a group of people just wandering around, so to speak. So that's not ideal. But once we've done context and leadership, then comes the big challenge. Now we have to plan all this. Okay, we've got this very nice standard with these 93 controls, 30-something pages. Well, how hard can it be? Well, we just all have to do it, yeah. But it's an whole organization who has to do it. So we're going to see later on from planning that we're going to put a kind of project plan in place, a follow-up, a kind of project manager, which we call an implementer. And this implementer is also going to make sure that we get from the situation as is to the desired situation where we have it. And from there on, life is beautiful. We just need to make sure it keeps running and that it keeps operational. So it's basically greasing the engine, so to speak, and putting fuel in the tank. I'm expressing a bit simple, but that's basically what it boils down to. But of course, you implement a system to get a result, and this result should be on the one side that you've got this nice quality stamp, this nice quality label, demonstrating to the outside world that you're doing a good job, which is important because then we don't have to fill in those endless questionnaires of 300 questions per questionnaire. If you've ever done that, well, you know the pleasure of that. and you avoid a lot of doubt and uncertainty. Also, you can just say, okay, this is our quality level. We are that good. So let's move on with this. I always compare it a bit a quality level to the chocolate. On chocolate, you can see you've got this much cacao in it, 60% or even some 80 or 99%. Well, you know, it's exactly that. You know what to expect and you can build on that. So the quality label, it gives you a foundation. On the other hand, ISO 27001, security keeps evolving. Technology, we keep finding new flaws. Technology gets old. If it gets old, people find a way to hack it with more modern tools, etc. So we have to keep checking that we keep up the quality, and always also that we improve, because we can always do a bit better until the moment we say, okay, now we're doing well enough. It doesn't have to be any stricter. It's strict enough. And then we could just keep checking if we keep up to level. And then again, then we have to look at the context, what kind of performance you actually have defined that you actually need. If you're now working for any company in the finance world, this level will be extremely high. But if you're now working in, let's say that in the finance world, it would be a 9.9 out of 10. If you're working in another company, we could imagine it would be 9.8 or 9.7. But that's actually a goal, because the same going above that, no, it's not. It's not required by law. It's not required by for our risks. But that's something you have to evaluate, and then we also need to go back to leadership and say, okay, can we sign off on this? And on top of that, not only that you as a leader sign off, but the day that you have to explain to a judge, which can happen with NIS2 and GDPR, that you can say, dear judge, look, I did everything I could, but yeah, if they decide to switch off the power in the whole of Portugal, so to speak, well, that was something we had to accept, that the law said, okay, we can accept that for this many times. So we got performance evaluation. Are we doing good enough on our basis quality? And are we improving where we can still improve till the level to say, okay, now we've reached near perfection. And then also point 10, it connects to 9. We keep improving non-stop. We always keep looking for ways to improve that. You could compare it a bit with medicine. Basically, our medicine nowadays is good enough to keep people alive till they're 90, 100, or even older. But we keep improving it because we want to improve the quality of life, and also perhaps that we get to 200, I don't know. But we want to improve the quality of life, so we still keep better. We have this drive in us, and ISO 27001 has this also. Next slide, please. Yeah. So if you go a bit into detail, I'm not going to explain all these items, because then we would end up in an ISO 27001 course, which takes something between 3 and 4 days, depending on the audience, and also the number of hours in a day, of course, that we can spend. But here we see that all these items I just explained are really well documented. Let's take leadership, for example. I said we need to have a leader, someone who takes the front and says, okay, I'm going to be here taking this in charge. I'm going to take responsibility. Well, if you say all that, well, that's very good. We got 3 clauses about that. First of all, what makes you the leader? Do you have a function that we can accept, that you can say this? Are you in the leadership team? Are you on the board? Are you the CEO? Okay, yes, you've got the right mandate. You've got the right power, so to speak, the right authority. Okay, please now put on paper that you're actually going to do this, that you're committing to information security and implementation. So we ask him to put it on paper. And then we're going to publish this to the entire company, say, okay, and also towards the exterior world. So we commit to it, we're actually going to do this. Then we're also going to say, okay, but okay, now please describe what you want, and especially what you don't want, do not want. And we call that a policy. So in a policy, we're going to write down from an information security point of view, what we want, what you don't want, and who will do what, when, why, and where. And that's still very high level. Below that, we've got a lot of more policies, like a network policy, an acceptable use policy, all those kind of documentation. But we're asking leadership to clearly define what they want and what they don't want. And then we check it against the standards to see if it makes sense, if it's coherent. And then we're going also to document all those roles, responsibilities, authorities. So you see, eventually it's not only just the CEO who is accountable, who is responsible to explain to the judge, but we're also going to say, dear HR, this is your responsibility. Dear data protection officer, GDPR is your responsibility. And you've got this mandate, you've got this budget, these resources, please do something about it. And dear CISO, so Chief Information Security Officer, now please go ahead, it's your role to implement this management system. It's no longer everything in your head, you know everything. Now we're going to do this as a team. And as a team, we're going to implement a system. And with that system, we have a lot of processes. And if you, dear CISO, fall out for whatever reason, you won the lottery, you got COVID, whatever, you're on holiday perhaps, no problem. Someone else will be able to back you up and the organization keeps running. We don't break down. So we're going literally from this dependency on a few key people to a system where we become a team and that we can count on each other just by the documentation, the roles. It becomes a no-brainer. And that's the real beauty of ISO 27001. Then on the other side, we see performance evaluation. Well, there we got internal audit and we got management review. So management is going to review that every year. So they're going to look at it. We're going to present them figures. We're going to present them the improvements, the risks, the number of incidents, proposals that we would like to see evaluated by them and hopefully approved also. And we're actually going to give a state of the union, so to speak, on our security, saying, dear management, this is how we did. Please evaluate this and please give us advice. Please give us the resources to advance on these and these topics. And please also, and this is the most important part, please take a decision and sign off. If now you say, I don't take a decision, fine, but not taking decisions is also the decision that we act, that we're going to write down. So this extreme accountability, dear management, you're leading us. Now you take a decision. Do we go south? Do we go west? Do we go north? But if you decide nothing, we're going to write down that you decided nothing, and we'll go with the flow then, wherever that brings us. But that's management, you sign off on that. On the other hand, we have also audit. So it's not internally that management looks at it, but we got an independent party, the auditor, which is also something we're going to discuss about this, is going to take the standard and say, are you following the standard as it should be followed? Are there any deviations, and are these deviations acceptable or not? Not acceptable would mean, for example, a lack of commitment. Yeah, we're saying, come on, if you don't have commitment, if management doesn't sign off, well, what can we do? They sign off on a budget. If they don't give us budget, a bit difficult. So they're going to do this internal control, and then they're also going to look at all our policies. And in their policies, they're going to look at, okay, in these policies you wrote down you want this, you don't want this, and you will do this, you won't do this. Now let's take this policy and check if you do as you've written down. And then we'll go through the entire evaluation, and they will present this also to management, saying, okay, this is the situation, here are opportunities for improvement, or even some items we think it could go wrong, what we would call observations, or in less agreeable circumstances, they could call it a non-conformity, saying, okay, sorry, this doesn't not comply with the standard, so you need to do something about it. So it's here these checks and balances, and everyone is trying to help each other to keep up the pace and keep up the good work, so we advance. So this is basically the idea. It's not about policing, it's just trust but verify that we go to the a better stage, so to speak. If we look at the other slides, well, what's also interesting is planning. So in planning, we're going to say we have got 6.2, we've got our objectives. Here the objective is to become ISO 27001 certified. Once we're certified, okay, that's great, but that's a label we have now. But on the other hand, we also need to see where can security help us? Where would be an advantage to the organization? How do we move on from that? It could be a security objective, could be, for example, to make sure that ransomware can't put a company down for more at all. Okay, that's a very laudable objective, and a lot of companies would actually go bankrupt if a ransomware would put them completely down. So that's also a very plausible objective. Now, how are you going to achieve that? Well, then you have to think about business continuity. If your site A goes down due to a ransomware, you should still have site B, or perhaps a solution in the cloud. If the that you can say, okay, my cloud, my entire infrastructure is infected, is completely taken hostage. Well, okay, very bad, very sad. I just shut it down, and then I start in a clean cloud environment from clean sources that we know through the processes and through checks and balances are clean. We rebuild our entire infrastructure, and a few minutes or few hours later, we're back up and running. That may cost a lot of money, so you have to see how are we going to do this. Do we want to take the option carte blanche, we have all the money of the world? Great. I've worked in such kind of environments, and there we actually had to implement such solutions. So we just went like, okay, the budget for this is just plain crazy. We're talking about multiple zeros before the comma, in front of the comma, so multiple millions, but we can't afford any outage. So we have to spend this money. And of course, we will get from our customers money in exchange because they pay for this kind of service. Now, I've had other companies where they say, well, if it happens, we can accept to be down for a day, 2 days, even longer. But then we have also to communicate to our clients, well, if this would ever happen, even if everything that we've foreseen, well, it will take us a time to rebuild everything and it will take us 3 days, but in 3 days time, we're up and running again and don't worry. So you can go both ways. You have to plan how you will achieve these objectives. And then also we're going to say, because now I addressed ransomware, but then we've got the other big risk coming up nowadays is AI. Now, I think AI is a very nice, a very good, worthwhile technology, but like any technology, it can be used for the improvement or for the determinant, for the destruction, sabotage of organizations and of society. And it's like anything. A card can be abused, a pen can be abused, while AI can also be abused. But nowadays, what if we would put AI in ransomware? So we've got intelligent or semi-intelligent ransomware. It's already now with just being not intelligent, not smart, so dangerous. So that's also something we see nowadays, that certain ransomwares are trying to integrate AI, try to get some advantage out of that. So that's a risk that we have to perceive and say, okay, what can we do about this? So we're going to implement certain actions. We're going to implement intrusion detection and blocking systems like an EDR or an IPS. We're going to put in place anti-phishing solutions. We're going to put in place antivirus solutions. So all these items will help us to prevent from a ransomware getting in. And if it does get in, we've got all our business continuity possibilities. On the other hand, AI is also a business enabler. We can now do things with AI that we could only dream of and wish for 10, 20 years ago. Just imagine that now you receive, let's say, every day 10 million mail requests for support. Before, you just had to say, okay, anything that corresponds to certain criteria, we're going to handle it, and the rest, well, we'll see what we can do, best effort. Well, nowadays you can say, dear AI, sort it all out, filter out all the phishing, filter out all the questions that you can send a standard response. Then we have some double checks on that. And then the 10% or the 1% of critical items, we're going to address that. Then we solve a lot of issues. Both everyone gets an answer as appropriate. And on the other hand, we can find all the people to answer really difficult problems and not just the plain vanilla questions like where can I find your contact address, or where can I pick up my product? So AI is both an opportunity and a risk. And through this ISMS, we're going to plan how we're going to handle this. For this, there's also different standards, more on the AI management itself. But here we're already going to look at it, what the potential risks would be. And so basically we keep looking at any technological, geopolitical issue that might occur and see how we can handle that. Fun fact is that a few years ago, ISO obliged us to also take global warming into account. At first I was going like, global warming, how is my information security to solve that? But then I went thinking, said, yeah, but they've actually got a point. Just there are certain areas that are very prone to tornadoes. Now with global warming, the statistics on those tornadoes, it changes. They become more frequent or more intensive or coming from different angles. So we have to take all this into account, say, okay, the weather is changing. We can't trust our statistics from the past 50 years. Let's have a look at this. And then we move on from there. So it's a good support tool. It really helps you. I like it a lot for that. And the main advantage of an ISO 27001 is it's a standard that's has proven itself in more than 160 countries over more than 20 years. And you don't have to prove to your colleagues or to your management that it's basically a good idea to follow this. It has been proven that it's a good idea. It's a good tool. Now we just need to check, is this a tool we want in our organization, yes or no? But we don't have to prove the validity, the quality of the tool. And that's a huge time saver. I remember about something like 15 years ago, it was like, yeah, but you know, my standard, no, my standard. I was going like, come on guys, we've got an ISO 27001, let's use this. Now it has more than 20 years under the belt and people don't discuss it anymore. That's fine. Next slide, please. Okay, so here we got the details. We got 4 main categories. In the previous standard, it was divided in network controls, physical controls, supplier control, etc. That was great for the people who implemented it because it was directly grouped as they liked it for their project. But when you had to explain that to management, they looked at you like, okay, oh, this is getting technical. This is getting too technical, bye-bye. They didn't perhaps say bye-bye, but the mind went bye-bye and their eyes went on looking at the horizon and sitting it out if you were lucky. So it took a lot of effort to reorganize ourselves, all these controls, and convey it in a way that was understandable for management. But then in 2022, they had the very good idea of reorganizing it so it becomes very accessible for management. Now it's just say, dear management, or dear person who is interested about ISO 27001, it's about people, process, and technology. Okay, when we look at it, people, well, people controls, processes, organizational. Yeah, they named it organizational because it's a bit more than just process, also administration, follow-up, etc., management. So that makes sense. And then technology, well, it can be physical, it can be pure software. So we split that up in those 2 groups. And then what we see now is when we explain it like this to management going like, oh, cool. Finally, something technical that's not explained in a technical way, but in my language. So this is a huge improvement. It makes it very accessible. Also, when you have to explain to people to whom you want to implement it, you're not using these difficult words like network and asset management. No, you're saying, okay, you're talking about technological controls. And because it sounds simple, you remove a barrier. People going like, oh, it's technical, it's technological, or it's physical. Okay. And then they're open for it. So that's a very good improvement. On the other hand, yeah, we all have our preferences, of course, how we would like to see it grouped. Could I have the next slide, please? Look at that. Okay, so I've given you the general or generic introduction on ISO 27001. I've told you the dream, so to speak. And of course, it's a bit my job because I have to say this is a very good tool and we really want to use this. But there's truth in it and it has proven itself. But now it's sold, management wants it, and management says, okay, dear sir, dear madam, tell me what you need. Tell me what would be needed, what would be the cost, and then I'll think about it. And if I can afford it or I can find a budget for it, we can discuss further. And then you go like, oh, yeah, now I sold it. What now? On the other hand, you could be say, okay, dear sir, dear CISO, now if this is implemented, this needs to be audited. Do you know a good auditor? Or could you audit it? Or how can we approach this? And what is required from audit? That's the most difficult question. Dear CISO, dear lead implementer, in November, let's say the 25th of November, the auditor will come and will give his verdict at the end of the week. What do we have to expect? How do we prepare for that? How do you know that you've prepared everything he needs to see and needs to find? Because he needs to find certain technological evidences. He needs to see a certain level of security. He needs to find certain items. How have you prepared for it? It's a bit like saying, okay, you know that you're going to have a big university exam in November. Well, how are you sure that you've studied the right materials, that you have studied the right book? just the same. So we have to explain that to our management and internal staff, also to reassure people that you know what it's about and you can help them forward. Next slide, please. Well, the lead implementer, very short, is basically the either a project manager, or even if it's a very large organization, he has to work with multiple teams at the level of a program manager, and he's going to make sure that we get from situation as is, A, to a situation Z, to be the desired situation. So for that, he's going to go through these 5 steps. He's going to initiate the ISMS. What is this? Remember the context we saw at the beginning? Well, it's going to say, okay, what's the context here? Then leadership. Can I have your signature? If I can't get your signature that we want to start this, I've got a problem, because people will tell me, yeah, but the big boss, does he want it or not? I don't see something on paper. You say that. I need to hear it from the big boss. I'm working for the big boss, not for you, with all due respect. So that's why this context and leadership is so important. And then you say, what do we want? What do we want to protect? What do we have to protect? What does the law impose us? If you're in these 2 organizations, well, it's pretty strict and pretty straightforward to have to implement. But I've met people, I've implemented a number of ISMSs where I just said, we want the label because our customers ask it, our suppliers ask it, but we don't really understand it. Okay, so we need to get back to this context, seeing what is exactly needed, and then we're going to say, okay, we can achieve this in 5 years, this in 3 years, this in 1 year, this in the shortest period I've done was 4 months, done it twice. What can we achieve in 4 months? And is this good enough? Of course, the shorter the time period, the more things have to be present, already up and running, so I can just pick up all those ingredients, all those pieces, and make them work together. It's like basically like saying, okay, we've got all those great players, and now we make a big team that go play the Olympics on something. So, but if you don't have people who are at that level already, you first need to train them, you need to grow them, so to speak. They need to grow into that, so that will take more time. So you've got your planning. Planning can go from, let's say, 4 to 6 months up to 3 to 5 years. And then we start implementing. Step by step, we're going to see that in the next slide, how we go step by step, how we move about that. At a certain moment, we've implemented it, we've built everything, but you have to hand over the keys and say, okay, I've been running now all this, but now, dear manager, dear IT managers, dear HR, dear DPO, I'm not holding your hands anymore. You're on the bike now. I've held your hand all the time, so you didn't fall. But now you've got the skills. Please ride on, and I won't hold your hands. Please go ahead. That's handing over. But of course, once I hand over, I'm going to keep an eye on it. If they reach the goals, if we keep the quality levels, if we don't have any new risks popping up like AI nowadays. I guess in a few years it will be quantum computing, but let's first worry about AI, one thing at a time. And then, of course, besides monitoring and review, you need to maintain and improve it. And all that are the tasks that the lead implementer does. So a huge part is basically build, project management, a smaller part, but what happens also quite often is being the role of ISMS manager, where you keep it up and running, you keep it all up to date. Next slide, please. Okay, we've got for this a very proven framework, the PDCA, Plan, Do, Check, Act cycle. You can replace that by Six Sigma, Lean, whatever quality management system or process that you want to use, and a management and improvement process. We like to use a Plan, Do, Check, Act. Why? It exists already more than 50 years, and already more than 50 years it has proven itself, and it's very easy to explain. If now in your situation you need something that's more sophisticated, more specific, why not? But I'm always thinking like, let's start with something that everyone can understand, so everyone can collaborate on it, work together, and from there move on. So first we're going to plan. We've seen that in the previous slide where we say, okay, we need to define our context and plan the implementation, all those items. So what we see here, we establish it. Establish leadership. Then we're getting in the do. Well, we've made all these plans. Now let's start with these plans. We're going to implement a new antivirus solution. We're going to implement our incident management process or improve our incident management process. We're going to look at all that. So we're going to perform all those little projects, those little tasks, or even big tasks in certain cases. And then once these processes are completed, let's say once we've implemented our antivirus solution, we're going to see, okay, does it work? Yes or no? Basic but important. Does it work as we expected, as we wanted? And are all the PCs protected with it? Yes or no? Okay, check in the box. Then we're going to look at our incident management, our asset management, etc., etc. And we're going to check everything. And once we've done this first check that we say, okay, now it's up and running, then we keep regularly coming back to it to make sure it's still okay. Not to police it, but to make sure that we avoid a breakdown, that we help it where it's needed. Let's have a look at incident management. Oh, we come back to it and notice that there's something going wrong. It doesn't perform as well as the previous 3 times that we checked it. Oh, but look at that. A key person fell ill. The backup person is taking it on top of all the rest. And this has been going on for 2 months now. You can't expect this backup person to work at 180% of his work time non-stop for more than a week or 2 weeks. So, okay, let's raise this to management, say, okay, we've got an issue here, how can we solve it? And always look towards a solution. ISO 27001 and the PDCA is very solution oriented. It's not about blaming and shaming. It's about, oh, we've got a situation, how can we improve it? We've got a situation, how can we correct it? How can we make it better? It's always about improving, growing solutions. And then, of course, at a certain moment, we need to write down, okay, on this date we stated, or we found that it's working correctly, we're just scoring. So we make a note about it so we can compare in the future. Say, okay, but last year, this time, how did it go? Oh, we can see tendencies. And based on those trends, we can see, well, in autumn, a lot of people fall ill because of the weather in Western Europe. Okay, we can adjust our processes so we have more backup people present for in autumn. And like that, we just plan to check it. We keep coming in a circle, going always around, always improving, always saying, okay, what can we improve now? Okay, then we do that. We check how it goes. We take notes of it. And based on that, we adjust course, or we change our plans a bit, or we keep doing it, or we make it even bigger. And we keep improving. So we get this really positive spiral, so to speak. Next slide, please. Okay, I know I make it sound simple. And when it sounds simple, it usually isn't. Well, yeah, we've got 7 main tasks as an implementer that you have to take into account. Yeah, first of all, you have to ensure there's continuous non-stop improvement, that things keep improving. One step at a time. It doesn't have to be a revolution, but it needs to be an evolution that's always going up and up and up. Just like climbing a tree, climbing a mountain, it's one step at a time, not one big jump, but one step at a time. But you have to make keeping those steps, else, well, you roll down the mountain. You have to make data-driven decisions. It's not based on intuition, gut feeling, something you just pulled out of your sleeve, so to speak. You have to base yourself on data. Okay, the data tells me this. I've got different data or indicators telling me, okay, but here we've got a new emerging risk with certain indicators. Well, based on this data, based on the documentation, we're going to go to management and say, please, dear management, we need this kind of decision from you. But on the other hand, we're also going to say, well, no, we're going to first handle this because this item has a quality level on a scale of 10 of, let's say, 6, and it needs to be 7. And then I'll look at something that's already 9 and want to go to 9.5. So you have to make data-driven decisions, and it also has to be structured. It's not spray and paint, so to speak. It's not all over the place. It's really methodological. You're going from, you're building up items, and you're all constantly improving, and you try to get everything on the same level, and then you move to the next level. And also, throughout all this, ensure consistency. If your decisions of the past should still make sense now, should still support you, and not contradict you or obstruct you. So you have to look also at the long view, the long time, strategic. How will this help me in a month, 6 months, a year, and where could it cause an issue? How can we address this? And then we come automatically to our next point. We need to ensure flexibility. Security, the time that security was enough that you had a guard, a big fence around your data center, and cameras, and good locks on your doors. Well, I'm very sorry, that's finished. Now everything is in the cloud, and even in the cloud with those containers that have infrastructure as code that you can just rebuild an entire infrastructure with a press of the button, our security can't be that rigid anymore. We have to be able, just like in, let's say, Aikido or Judo, if something happens, we have to be able to go with the flow, deflect it, and rearrange that energy to a way that's constructive, that we are still properly protected. So we have to foresee this kind of flexibility that we can adapt and react. And constantly, as already mentioned, we have to identify and manage risks. Now, identifying risks is a bit of a challenge, because how would I put it? There's a lot of things as a human being we don't want to see, and because we don't want to see it, we're going to say, no, I'm not looking at that, no, and like little children, no, it doesn't exist, and if it doesn't exist, I'm not scared. That's fine, but as a lead implementer, you have to face the risks and say, what are we going to do with it? Either take a decision or don't take a decision, but not taking a decision also means that I accept it, and I accept that everything goes wrong. So we're going to say, well, manage, how are we going to manage that? That we either mitigate the risk, so the risk becomes too smaller, or to a level that's acceptable, that it doesn't hurt that much, and then we just pay the €5 in damages, so to speak, instead of the 5 billion. Huh? So that's a good thing. Or we can just say, well, we don't do it anymore. GDPR is a big risk. A lot can go wrong. You could decide that you don't do anything with personal data anymore. That would be hard regarding your staff, your resources, but for your customers, you could do that. You could sell a product that doesn't have any personal data in it. So you would reduce the risk a lot. You cannot fully exclude it because you're always dealing with people, but you can reduce it. Or you could say, I'm not going to do business in Belgium because they have a lot of problems. They've got too much chocolate, too much beer, and if I do business there, it will go wrong because of the chocolate. Everyone will just eat chocolate, my people won't work. So, okay, that could be a risk. Doesn't make really sense, but I have to give some kind of risk and say, okay, then I don't do business in Belgium. Now, do come over, we've got good chocolate, good beer, and nice people. But managing risk is either you delete it, you drop it, you don't do it anymore, you treat it, you make the risk smaller, or you say, dear supplier, dear Microsoft, we can't handle our mail service and all this cloud, the security is becoming too vast, too important. Please do it for us and we pay you money. So we get a secure platform. And on top of that, we can go to insurance saying, dear insurance, we've done all these measures, but if something goes wrong, just like with my car, we've got a car accident, I do everything to be safe, but if something goes wrong, please insure me so that if I hurt someone else, the other person gets reimbursed, and if I lose something, that I also get reimbursed. So you can take insurance, which then actually called transferring the risk, and from there you can finally say, okay, we've managed all the risks, and now we're going to assume and accept them, or accept and assume. So basically saying, okay, we're going to live with it and tolerate it. And from there we can keep improving it. So this is basically what an implementer has to do. It's a lot of overlap with the CISO, but it's right hand, so to speak. The CISO, the Chief Information Security Officer, is going to say, this is what I need, this is my objective, and now please implement the system to make it happen. Next slide, please. Okay. Now we see it coming together. We've got our clauses from 4 to 10, which are the system. On that, we're going to apply the PDCA, the Plan, Do, Check, Act, and we're going to get the results. And those results, we're going to present them to management so they can evaluate it. This will also be evaluated by the auditor, and eventually it will lead to a quality label from where we can move on. And if we keep this properly maintained, the auditor will hopefully be happy with it. Satisfied is a better word. They'll say, okay, you deserve to have this certification. I recommend you for certification. Then it goes to an accreditation body. Accreditation body says, okay, we've done our checks and balances, and we grant you this label. And from there, you can grow your business, do more business, because you show it to the legal authorities, you show it to your suppliers, your customers, and you evolve like that. Next slide, please. Tasks of the lead auditor. Whereas the lead implemented, it was actually quite easy. You have to build everything up, and mistakes can be made. And it's okay, mistakes can be made, but then you still have time and process to improve them and to make sure that the company is not at risk. But as a lead auditor, you have to go find all the little items that may be overlooked or forgotten or not correctly understood by the auditee, by the person who implemented the ISO 27001, or the person who are practicing, executing it on the work floor. So this is a bit more difficult because 98%, 99% is usually okay, but you have to find this 1% of 2% of little items that were missed somehow. And that's a challenge. Let's have a look at these slides. Next slide, please. Okay, there it is. Now, to become a lead auditor, as Liam already explained it, you need a certain career path, a certain experience. You also need to follow a certain training, a recognized training. So because then we are sure that you have the right vocabulary, the right grammar, so to speak, the right methods, the right tools, that you know what it's about, that you're properly prepared for what you have to do. You also have to develop practical auditing skills. What does this mean? Well, audit literally means to listen. You have to learn to listen to an auditee, hear what he says, he or she says, interpret it, ask the right questions, and then come to a finding that's undeniable and that you can actually say, okay, based on all the evidence, everything you've told me, and then I have to conclude you've got this level of quality. And that's extremely difficult because, well, how would I put it? When you go start speaking with people, you've got people who are very visual. They will use expressions as, yes, I see, I get it, I see the picture for me, all those kind of very imagey verbs and nouns. Well, people are very auditive, will say, yes, I hear you, yes, I'm listening, but if I hear you correctly, if I understand it correctly. So it's a whole different way of interpreting the world. And that's just about basic communication. Now, just imagine that you're in front of someone who is nervous because he's got a big bad auditor in front of him. You have to calm down this person. You have to convince him you're an auditor, yes, but you're not the big bad something that he's imagining. You're actually someone there to help him to improve. You can have people very hostile or very nervous or panicking, or who speak a different language, or very operational or very scientific thinking. I remember one case where I had to interview a person who had a scientific degree, extremely intelligent person, but absolutely no skills in IT besides sending and receiving emails. But this person was actually one of my key parties I had to interview to see in a critical infrastructure, how does this all work? Now, he did know a bit more than just sending emails. He had decent basic computer skills, but he was not a cybersecurity specialist. And this person came with questions and analogies. I was just going like, okay, you're working in this field of science. That means that you look at the world through these eyes with these contexts. How can I make my questions relate to your context so that you understand, they can answer me? Those are practical auditing skills. How you communicate with people, how you get to the results, how you get to an audit report that demonstrate the current status. You've also a lot of planning to do and interviewing skills, etc. Those, and calculating your audit, well, those are things that you have to learn. You can't just wing it. It's too important for that for a company. Now, in order to make sure that you don't wing it, so to speak, that you just improvise and invent stuff on the fly, you have to understand the requirements of ISO 27001, and you really have to understand in detail. You have to have read every little word of the standard, and you have to know what could be the impact on an auditee. An example of that is, well, in A51, you have to it states that you have to make available for everyone and communicate to everyone who is in scope, all the staff, all the personnel, the policy and the ISMS guidelines. But there's a very small word next to that saying, and they have to acknowledge it. They have to sign off for receipt, so to speak. Well, most people will just read, okay, communicate policies to everyone. Okay, great. I put it on the SharePoint. Everyone can read it. That's fine. Yeah, but have they signed off for it? Have they said, yes, I've received it? Perhaps they don't agree with it, but that's a different problem. They have to that's management to handle that. But did they sign off for receipt? And those kind of details an auditor has to think about and say, hey, did you think about this? And have you done this? So you need to have a very good understanding of the requirements of ISO 27001, what it exactly means, and what is exactly expected from the auditee. And then we've got also the auditing guidelines of the ISO 9011. It tells you how you should technically do your audit from an organizational point of view and also from a people point of view. What's expected from you? My example of being the big bad auditor is forbidden by ISO 9011. You have to be professional, ethical, objective, but you can't take a stick and start hitting the auditee to get your answers. That's forbidden. That's not ethical. Extreme example, I've never seen an auditor take a stick, but I have seen certain auditors I went like, sorry, let's be, I think there might be some issue regarding ISO 9011. Let's take a break here so we get some oxygen and all that. So you have to very thoroughly understand it, or otherwise the auditee or the internal audit might come back, or some audit person with audit skills might come back to you and say, well, with all due respect, but this isn't how it should be done. So we have an issue here. We want to avoid that, especially as an auditor. An auditor, I always compare it a bit to a dentist. He gives you a diagnosis, and with this diagnosis, you can be helped further. And if the dentist says it's all clear, well, whatever I'm doing to have it all clear, I keep doing it. So you've got a huge responsibility. You have to make sure that you give the right green light, the right all clear, and when there's something that could be improved or should be repaired, you have to tell it also. Else, the auditee who knows nothing, who is in good faith, acts in good faith, has later on a problem and would come back to you. And also, as a lead auditor, eventually we need to get a certification from a recognized body, such as TRECCERT. And you have to non-stop keep also your skills and knowledge up to date in line with industry standards. I've been auditing more than, it's now 15 years I've been auditing. If I hadn't studied anything extra on IT or evolution of physical security or the evolution of the standards, with my knowledge of 15 years ago, the only thing I could say now, okay, that's a nice building, oh, that's a nice policy, but I would be completely outdated. So you have to keep yourself up to date. And that's one of the hard parts. But if you work in this field, it means also that you're passionate about the subject and that you have such intricate knowledge of it and such an experience that keeping up with all that is not that hard. It's just like keeping in shape and walking every day or a few thousand steps, so to speak. And you walk every day, 1 kilometer is the same. You see, it's feasible. Next slide, please. Okay, there we have it. Now, you have heard me mention internal audit and certification audits. I've got two types of audits. Internal, you appoint someone internally, say, okay, dear John Doe, today, or John Smith, please audit this department and tell me if they're compliant with this standard, yes or no, and where the gaps are and where we can improve. That's internal. Great. We also call that a first party audit. It's someone from within the company. That's usually pretty constructive, very positive. You have certain companies where they go like, oh no, John Smith, he hates me and now he's going to come and audit me because I gave him a bad review 10 years ago. Well, if that would happen, then we've got a conflict of interest, and then we have to say, John Smith has to say, very sorry, 10 years ago we had a very big fight. Okay, we're all adults and we're over it, but I've got a conflict of interest. I could be regarded as subjective, so please send someone else. So internal audit always has to send someone objective, but internal audit can look at, do you comply with the standard, tick the boxes, are the risks addressed, and internal audit can think along with you, say, okay, but wait a minute, as an auditor, I would expect this. I don't see this here, what I see is this instead. And now I'm not going to say how you do it, but if you can achieve this result, that I get these items, and when I do my research on that, I drill down that it's everything proven, I've got all the evidence that the process is completely there, then you would be compliant. So as an internal audit, I can give advice on efficiency to do it better. As an internal audit, I could also say, wait a minute, I'm here an AI expert or an Office 365 expert. I see you don't do these things. This is an internal audit. To be compliant, you could tick these boxes, change these configurations so you get this result. But it's a suggestion, not telling you how to do it and not implementing for you, and just showing you the options. As an internal auditor, you've got more freedom. You got the right to say more because it's internal. You're helping the other department internally. An external audit, well, that's basically an inspection where they just come and check, are you compliant, yes or no? If you're compliant, great, tick in the box. You're not in compliant, a bar through it, and we're going to say you're not compliant for this reason. But we cannot give you any advice on it. We can just say, well, we have not found this, we have not found this, we've not found this. So, and we have found these items, and because of all that, we have to conclude, we can come only to the conclusion that not compliant. So an external audit is much more strict, still objective, still there to be of assistance, but it's basically, we just check if you're compliant, yes or no. Like the dentist, do you have any issues, yes or no? But then dentist would just go like, no, sorry, please go to the nurse, please go to your parents or whomever to teach you about these hygiene practices that you need to put into place. Basically the same system, so it's a bit colder, but it's also their job. We need to be able to prove that they did an independent, objective audit with no interference, and it's exactly as you said. So yeah, then we got second party, third party, second party. It's your supplier or customer comes and audit you. So you got some kind of commercial agreement between you, both of you, a profitable relationship. Let me put it this way. So you both make, you both do business together. And you can have a third party audit where you say, okay, dear external audit company, please come over. We will pay you for 5 days or 10 days that you audit us completely. But for the rest, we've got no conflict of interest. We've got no commercial collaboration. You're completely independent. The only thing commercial here is that we pay you for your time to do the audit. And then I've seen auditors fly in from India or England or Germany or vice versa. I've been flown over to also to other countries. And you arrive there completely, how would I put it, neutral, objective. You've got no conflict of interest, and you do your audit. When you get in those situations, again, I come back to the word audit, you have to listen to the other person. That's hard, that's a skill, because they've got different cultures. A different culture will automatically mean that you approach things in a way that's perhaps different to how you approach it. But there's no right and wrong. They're just people who grow up in a certain context and act according to that context. And in my experience, most people always want to do a good thing, but you have to listen first and try to understand so you know what they work. If you work with Dutch people or if you're Japanese people, you're not going to treat a Japanese like a Dutch person. Dutch persons say everything, they're very explicit, a bit like Americans, are very straightforward. Do this, do this, yes, no, great. Japanese, yeah. And they have to go like, oh, he made this sound or this movement, what does it imply? So you have to, as an external auditor, you have to really listen also to the culture, what they actually mean. But that makes it fascinating. Next slide, please. So, in good tradition, I always tell upfront what I'm going to see later in my screen, in my slides. Like that, we see it 3 times and we learn it, because you need 3 times to learn and remember it. Auditing principles, you have to show integrity. Integrity means that you follow the standards, that you follow the code of conduct, all the expectations from an auditor, fair presentation. We have to represent the truth as we find it in a way that's objective. We can't color it, shade it, influence it. It needs to be objective. Due professional care. Well, it's a bit what I already said. We have to apply all those applicable and relevant good practices. Like being discreet, keeping things confidential, being independent, going about an evidence-based approach. So it's not on hearsay, but actual evidences that we make our judgment, or a lack of evidences can also. If I can't find anything about incident management, well, the fact that I've got not a single evidence about evidence management may indicate there isn't one. Perhaps there is one, but you haven't shown it to me. So I have to say, you haven't shown it to me. So fair presentation again. See what I did? There's a difference between I didn't find any evidence, so it doesn't exist, versus I didn't find it, so it was not shown to me, so I have to consider it as not present or not auditable. So lacking. A whole different way of looking at it. And it must be risk-based. If you're working in a financial organization, the risks are different than when you work in a critical infrastructure, and you have to work according to these, that you follow actual risks that are relevant for them. You're not going to treat a risk about, let's say, tornadoes if you're based on the Antarctic or the North Pole. As far as I know, we don't have tornadoes there. We've got other kind of storms, but not tornadoes. So tornadoes are not a risk that we need to calculate. But in Florida, something else. Next slide, please. So we can't stress this strongly enough. You have to be ethical. You have to follow the code of conduct that are put in this standard ISO 9011. You have to have leadership skills. You will get into situations and say, okay, but now, very sorry, but I need to see this. Can we see this, please? How can you demonstrate this to me? Can you provide me this evidence? Or also saying, dear sir, I understand that you want to explain everything about this marvelous implementation, this beautiful technology that you're using now, but I've checked, I've done the audits on your antivirus system. Let's move on to the next item. We have 10 items to check in the next 2 hours. We should not spend more time on antivirus. Also leadership. But you have to do it in a way, say, okay, now we've done this, let's move on to the next thing. And actually the auditee should feel guided, that you guide him through it. So, because this is also what leadership is about, getting people to an objective they can't reach without you. So being guided, unbiased and objective. First of all, you keep your ego on the parking lot. You keep your ego and all your, how would I put it, personal ideas and opinions. You keep them outside. When you enter the building with the audit, you're going, okay, I'm going to see, does it correspond to good practices, yes or no? Why did they do it? Is it justified? Is it justifiable? Or is a, how would I put it, I can't justify it based on risk management or technology. So you have to be very objective. What would that, for example, be? You just imagine that we now enter an environment and say we don't have, in this server, we don't have an antivirus. That's a big risk. Yes, theoretically, that's a big risk. But look at this. It's a computer. It's running completely on its own, completely segregated from the network. We've blocked all USB ports. We can't insert the floppy disk. We can't insert a CD. We don't have a network connection. Basically, it's a completely closed box where only power goes out and how would I put it? Signals are sent out through a serial cable or whatever to a screen. Okay. And then when we look at it, the risk of a virus is highly reduced. And also to make sure there's no virus on the machine itself, every 24 hours, we scan it from a different machine. So we don't have the antivirus on the machine itself, but there's a different machine that's going to scan regularly to make sure there's no virus that got onto it anyway. And then we can say, okay, is this there is control of to prevent a lot, all these measures to prevent. We do control, we do check that no virus slipped in somehow. So it becomes acceptable. It can be acceptable in certain contexts that we have this kind of setup. But there you have to be unbiased and you have to be objective. My bias could be, no, you have to have an antivirus or forget about it. No, you have to look at the risk. But then again, that's a calculation you have to make based on the standard, also in collaboration with other auditors in certain cases and with the risk management. But this is highly important. Next slide, please. Okay, an audit is not just walking, have a nice chat with people and going to the controls. You need to have a plan. You need to have an agenda. And if you've got more than one team, more than one process to audit, well, it suddenly becomes a program. You've got a lot of little sub-projects to handle. You're going to establish all roles and responsibilities for this. You're going to determine, do I need a pen tester? Do I need a network specialist? Do I need a network expert? Do I need a cloud expert? Do I need an AI expert? So you're going to determine what kind of profiles you exactly need. You're going to put this entire team in place. You're going to also say, what are we exactly going to audit? Are we just going to audit this data room in Paris, for example? Or are we going to audit all the data rooms in the whole of Europe? Or are we going to also include the offices? So we have to determine what's in scope, what's not in scope. You're going to determine what could possibly go wrong. Well, if you have to, how would I put it, audit the data room in Paris, we will have to travel Paris. It might be that we arrive too late. Okay, so we plan accordingly so that if we arrive late, we're still there the next day on time. We also have to specify procedures, or we might say, okay, but for this audit, we need these key people. What if one of those key people would fall ill right before the audit or during the audit? Who can back up for them? Who can provide these answers? So all these things we have to take into account. We're going to choose which audit methods we're going to do. We are going to confirm the team with the auditee also. Look, these are all our team members. Is there anyone that you have a potential conflict of interest with? Or is there certain documentation, then certain NDAs they have to sign? So we put all that in place also. We're going to write down who is responsible for what exactly. We're going to manage the results and we're going to manage the records. So the whole administration about this needs to be put in place. And then we're going to see and make sure that we achieve our audit objectives for the program, for the different little sub-projects, those little audit interviews we had. We will make sure that our audit or the collection of different audits, if you've got a really big organization, that we achieve the results that we can demonstrate on management. Next slide, please. Okay, so it's basically like we saw from the beginning, PDCA, plan, do, check, that. We started, we plan it, we execute it, that's the do. The report, that's basically the check. We give it to audit, to the audit responsibles, we give it to management, and they give their opinion on it. And then we act it, we take note, and we do follow-up. So this is basically what's coming back, but it's quite important. A lot of people tend to forget this. Next slide, please. And then we get to the preparation methods to become a lead auditor, lead implementer. I've given you a very short introduction to what's needed. This is a summary of, let's say, something like 8 days of training. You had it now in 40 minutes. Thank you for your time. It was really a pleasure. I'm handing back to Lirim, who is now connected. Yes. The floor is yours, Lirim.
That was a great presentation on your side. I think you covered all the main points, and at this moment, I think everybody should have a good idea of what they can expect if they intend to follow through with these roles. So I'm going to go briefly now on how to do the technical preparation for the certification exam. Basically, when it comes to preparing for the certification exam, there's really no one way that fits or suits everybody. It is essential to say that we do not mandate, it is not a requirement for somebody to attend training to get certified. You could theoretically get certified directly without undergoing any training. The only major requirement is that you actually understand the standard thoroughly. That means if you apply for the lead auditor, you know how to audit that standard, and if you plan to implement it, you understand the steps that you need to take to actually implement that standard. However, there are ways that we recommend and ways that have been proven to work in the past. If we move to the next slide, please. So essentially, the two major ways at this point are the attending training events, whether that is through virtual methods, online training, or in person. Some people prefer in person more. I think a lot fewer people prefer virtual training, especially if they're long. Lead implemented lead auditor trainings, for example, usually take 40 hours or a full week of work, and sitting can be quite a hassle. However, that's why today you see more and more e-learning platforms and e-learning solutions popping up, and we have joined the trend as well. We took some time because we wanted to do it right. We have prepared a very comprehensive and detailed e-learning platform, which I think should be suitable for professionals, which is our target audience. We'll explain the benefits later, but I think it's the way to go for everybody that is not in a position to sit in a long classroom or attend a training in person. If we move to the next slide, please. So there's for training events, there's various formats. We usually have instructor-led sessions. We have trainers from all over the world who are able to deliver our trainings in various languages tailored to the needs of their audience. We also, as I mentioned, have various formats, including in-person and online. Also, we offer opportunities for the groups to split the training according to their needs. The training isn't intended to be 40 hours. Some groups sometimes prefer shorter time because maybe they have some knowledge of ISO standards previously, or they only want to focus on one part. That is, as I said, optional for the team to decide. And generally speaking, we suggest in-person events as they are easier to follow and they present great networking opportunities, meeting like-minded people who are doing work in the industry and could provide us suggestions or recommendation referral, which can be great for somebody who is especially trying to kickstart their career. Still, personally, I am quite old school in this, and I quite prefer the classroom trainings, although it is getting more and more difficult to do that, especially with the family obligations and work and all that. So that's why we're going to move to the next slide, and we're going to talk about the e-learning platform, which makes life much easier for somebody like me, and I assume most of you in the audience who have a lot of responsibilities, a lot going on. We got the e-learning platforms, which enables self-paced flexibility. It has interactive multimedia, all kinds of quizzes, drag and drops, and other forms of exercises. You can track your progress throughout the session. You can plan how much progress you want to do. And as an added value, we got experts in all of our training courses, such as Dirk, who is also part of the courses and has been invaluable to us. And we've shot the videos together, and I think you'll find them very, very useful when preparing for the exam. So thank you for that as well. Moving on to the next slide, please. So as we have hinted in the promotional campaign for this webinar, we have an exclusive offer for everybody in attendance for this webinar. If you want to access the full Lead Implementer or Lead Auditor course, which are pretty long, I think it will take maybe 40 hours as well to go through them in detail and go through all the videos and materials. The exclusive price for now is 99 euros. The normal price is going to be higher than this, and I think this is a limited time offer only for the people who took time of their day to attend this webinar. Again, we truly appreciate your time and effort to be here today. So if you're considering this, we're going to move to the next slide, please. Here you got the QR code. If you're interested in signing up for this offer, you can just quickly scan this QR code or copy the link below, and this will lead you to a page where you can join the wait list, and later you can make a direct payment through the website. You'll get instant access to the course, whichever one you choose, or if you would like to have both. I think it's a great offer. I think you'd be hard pressed to find a better opportunity at the moment for such a comprehensive test material. You'll have, I think, more than enough resources in there to prepare for the exam, and we also will provide technical support 24/7 for any issues you may have using the platform or accessing it and staying in line with the preparation. So if you're interested, please scan the QR code. We'll make the video available on YouTube as well, so anybody who doesn't catch it now can later review it and find the QR code, or you can just email us and we'll send you the information needed to actually access the e-learning platform. So this has been the big revelation that we wanted to make today. It's our launch of the e-learning platform. We're going with our flagship products, 2701 Lead Implementer and Lead Auditor, which are the most highly sought after certifications, and I think Dirk has spoken quite a lot about them. And while they are very helpful for organizations, I think quite a lot of people have also been able to build careers out of the implementation and auditing of information security management systems. So I think they are very, very, very useful and effective career paths for anybody interested in the field. So without further ado on this, I think if you want to know more, you'll have the opportunity to go through the platform, and I think you'll be quite impressed with the very, very detailed work that has been done on the platform and the information that it provides. Now I'm going to go briefly through the certification requirements so that you know what to expect and whether you actually qualify for certification if you fulfill the requirements. It is important to note here, these are both our accredited schemes. 27001 Lead Implementer and Lead Auditor are accredited by the American National Accreditation Board against ISO 17024. These are the only 27001 Lead Implementer and Lead Auditor courses accredited against this standard by ANAB. And TRECCERT is the only startup that has achieved accreditation from ANAB. It's usually, if you go on their website, we're talking about huge corporations or bigger organizations that have years of experience like ISACA and ISC Squared, but we managed to also secure accreditation. It wasn't easy, but I think it was worth it in order to deliver the quality that I believe that our community members deserve. If we go to the next slide, please. So the process to get certified start with the completion of the exam. Again, you note here, training is not mandatory. You can go straight through the exam. You complete the exam successfully. The passing rate is 60%. The exam has 150 questions, so that's around 80 questions have to be correct, more than 80, which I think it's a fair, and it is based on the evaluation by experts. Once you complete the exam, you submit the certification application form where you provide the details of your experience. You will also have to send experience verification forms, which are forms that people who have worked with you and can attest to your professional experience need to sign. We may or may not contact these people depending whether they sent it or not, and they have to reaffirm that they have verified your experience and you actually have performed that work. Once you pass these requirements, then you are required to adhere, to maintain the certificate, you're required to adhere to the CPE program. We're going to cover that a bit later, and the TRECCERT Code of Ethics. Of course, the certification requirements for this scheme, we're going to cover that in the next slide, please. We're going to see what is needed to get the highest credential. So as I said, the passing rate is 60% for the exam, 150 questions. Then to get the lead implementer or lead auditor credential, you need at least 400 hours of implementation or auditing experience, depending on which scheme you're applying for. You need at least 5 years of general work experience, regardless whether that is in information security or other fields, and at least 2 years of specific work experience that can be in information security or auditing of management systems, depending on what we're talking here. So it is crucial to mention here that if you pass the exam, but you do not fulfill these requirements, you're a bit short on the hours of implementation, years of experience, or any of these, you still get certified, but you're eligible for a low-level certificate. You can either get implementer, auditor, or provisional implementer and provisional. So everybody who passes the exam will get the certificate. The credential depends on your experience. Can we move to the next slide, please? As we mentioned, an ongoing requirement is that you have to adhere to the CPE or Continuing Professional Education Program. This is a requirement because we do not ask our candidates to go examination again once they finish the certification initially. They just have to send proof that they have been attending webinars, they've been taking part in workshops, writing articles, preparing questions, attending webinars like this one and others in other areas, or completing other certifications. We recommend that each certified candidate submits at least 30 CPE credits per year, which are usually would take at least 30 hours of professional activity. And we require candidates for the 3-year cycle to submit 90 CPE credits. So it is not required to send the CPE every year. We only recommend it, but at the end of the full certification cycle, you have to send the 90 CPE credits in order for us to extend the validity of your certification for another 3 years after it expires. Can we move? Yes. And we also have the Code of Ethics, which among others states that the certified candidates shall act independently, with integrity and objectivity, act professionally, accurately, ethically, and responsibly. Other rules like following rules and industry standards, and very importantly, do not present fraudulent evidence or false information during certification processes. If we find out that there's fraud, we usually take disciplinary action against the candidates. It depends on the scale and nature of the breaches, but one of the measures could be a complete ban from certification in the future. So we would like to discourage anyone from taking part in such activities. If we could go to the next slide, please. I think that is it. Yes, I think we covered the main points here. So I think the process is quite straightforward, especially with the e-learning platform. I think people will be able to understand exactly what to expect on the exam, because there's a lot of quiz questions in there that are styled and designed similarly to the final exam. And I think once you cover all these, you should be able to pass the exam quite easily. The exam is all multiple choice questions, standardized format, only one answer is correct. So it is designed in a way to not confuse candidates and to make sure that people who actually understand the standard, have done the work, will pass and get certified. So I think for my part, that is it. I know we have a couple of questions. So I think I could start reading the questions, and maybe Dirk, if you'd like to jump in as well. I think some of them are more relevant for you. The first one is that in many organizations, I've noticed that the role of the ISO 27001 internal auditor is not always fully recognized or valued, even though internal audits are a key requirement of the standard. Could you please explain how important the internal audit function really is for maintaining certification, and what organizations can do to ensure internal auditors are given the proper authority and recognition within the ISMS?
Okay, so I hear 3 questions. The first one being, well, I've given the title of internal auditor, but yeah, what next? So they don't take me really serious, or they just a function assigned like that. And then the 2 other questions are basically, how can I move away from that and fulfilling my duty and also taking up this position? Well, the first thing you have to do with this is actually saying to management, say, okay, dear sir, dear madam, you've given me this responsibility. This means that I have to go through these items. I have to do these checks every year, and I have to make a planning. Now, please rest assured, because that's actually what management is typically afraid of or acts upon. You say, I'm going to do this according to a professional standard 90,011. So I've got a methodology to follow that follows the same methodology as your other internal audits. I have to abide by a very similar ethical code. I've got evidence that I know my material, that I've got the right experience and the right skills. And also, this will also always be in collaboration with you. But so now, so you can be assured that I've got the right skills, the right mindset, the right knowledge. Now I need from you the permission or the decision that we're going to do these internal audits. Because if you don't do the internal audits, to put it very bluntly, game over when the external audit happens. Huh? The external audit will just say, wait, you didn't do internal audits, when will you do them? oh, you're going outside of the period of 1 year. Sorry, game over, thank you for the money and bye-bye, because you're not compliant with the standard. So it's really important that we do this internal audit. So management, how can we move forward with this? And then the main concern from our management is, oh, another person who may, how I say, walks around with a big stick and starts hitting everyone because it's the first time he has this kind of power, and we are a bit afraid he might damage things. You need to take that fear away from saying, okay, I'm a professional, give me what I need, I can give you the result you need. If I don't get that, or we can do that, you will have something to manage the external audit. So that's typically how I do it. Usually management is afraid of new auditors or new audit functions because it could scare away the people.
Thank you for the answer, Dirk. Another question I think we could maybe add a little bit is that it says, I understand that ISO 27001 is a certifiable standard, but ISO 27002 is not. Could you please clarify why is 27002 itself cannot be certified, and whether it's still possible or recommended to study or learn ISO 27002 in order to better implement 27001?
Okay.
I think, yeah, you go ahead, please.
Okay, well, basically 27001 is about what you need. 27002 is about the how. But remember what I said about giving advice? You have to follow the standard, and you can fill it in so that you meet the what you need to do. How you do it? Well, there's more than one way always to do it. 27002 tells you all the different things that you could think about, but they're not necessarily always applicable, all of them to you. So you have to make your choice in the menu, so to speak. But it's a guidance document. That's why you cannot certify against it.
Yeah, really to the point. And I think very important to mention here that whether it is recommended to study 27002, I think absolutely. I think 27001 provides only very little information about the controls. So if you're going to audit or implement these controls, I think 27002 is crucial, and it's hard to go without it. Even for preparing for the exam, I think 27002 can be quite helpful because it provides the background information and all the necessary details to understand what the control is and how that can be implemented.
Exactly. And also, if I may add, if you go to, let's say, an IT manager or to a risk manager, and you're talking about a certain control, you can say, but wait, it's not me inventing this. I've got this standard that says it, and it's been proven in 160 countries, but we can choose from it. It's a menu we can pick from. And then it's not you, it's a standard, and you get some more weight in the scale. That helps.
Yeah. Then we got two easy questions which I should be able to cover. Can we have access to this webinar? Yes, you can. It will be available on our YouTube channel. So just look up TRECCERT on YouTube and you should be able to find this easily. Then finally, if I pass the exam but haven't yet reached the required professional experience, because I still receive a provisional certificate? Absolutely, you can and you will. Whether, depending on the exact amount of experience you have, you may even qualify for just implementer instead of lead implementer. But if, say, you have zero experience in the field, then you will get the professional certificate, which I think is still valuable and provides the evidence to your employer or anybody consider hiring you that you actually want to do the work and you're interested in this. And I think it's a great indicator of your willingness for professional development. I don't think we have further questions. The team hasn't sent me any more. So if that is it, I would like to sincerely thank everybody for attending this webinar again. It's been a pleasure to host you, Dirk, one more time. If you got some final words, please feel free to share. And as for me, thank you everyone and see you on the next one.
Okay. Well, Liam, I would like to thank you and TRECCERT for this great opportunity. It was also a very great audience, great questions, so I'm very grateful and looking forward to the next time working together. Thank you.
Bye-bye.